Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and Jesus fucking Christ! How did we get here? How the hell did we get here? Walking around Dalaran right now is like walking backstage at the circus, man. People are fucking themselves. Constantly fucking themselves in a system that was created by the player base. There's no getting away from that, but is encouraged by Blizzard and seemingly further encouraged in 7.1, and I am inundated with comments from players who are finally breaking out of the cesspool world and moving into the good rating stuff, and that is all thumbs up. I'm on a massive push to get you guys into a place where people ask you if you want to go to a Mythic Plus and you're not stood begging and pleading, please can I come, while being declined. What am I talking about? Is it an upgrade? Is what you're getting an upgrade? We are now so saturated in varieties of loot that are complicated. Even me, at this stage of the game, look at some items and go, I don't know. I don't know if this is an upgrade. And I just don't know how we got here. I don't know how we got to this stage where we're so fucked. And if you're at the lower end of the table, in terms of your progress, you're more fucked than anyone else. The Mythic Raiders tend to get a buy on this, but good God, everyone else is screwed. And screwing themselves in a system that is reinforcing itself constantly. So what do we have? We have, like, we've seen people clear Mythic 15 now, so you can say there's 17 varieties of dungeon on offer in the huge amount of 5-mans that already exist. And within them, there's normal gear, there's Warforged gear, there's fucking Titan Forged gear, there's gear that has gem slots on it, there's gear that has different affixes on it. All that exists in all different varieties and combinations within those. On top of that, we have relics, and that includes traits, and we're not quite sure exactly how much each is worth unless you do huge amounts of research into it. Do I take the relic that's a 10 item level upgrade that gives me slightly more pyroblast damage and replace it with a 10 item level low that gives me ignite damage? Which one do I take? Which one is better for me? And it's complicated. It's complicated. The answers are out there. Of course the answers are out there. But Jesus Christ, it's complicated. And then I look around at people emailing me and saying, Preacher, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what is going on. I have exponentially increased my item level. And I live in a world, and God knows, guys, I appreciate how many of you live in a world where item level is everything. It is everything. It doesn't matter if your trinket shoots purple rubber dildos that do 0 damage if it carries a swaggy item level and you have to equip it, otherwise you can't do the content you want to do. I fully appreciate that that goes on, and my fucking heart goes out to you guys, and I hope you can solve this predicament on your own. I give you the tools to do that. But it doesn't help that this system is totally fucking broken right now. So we have people saying they've had like 30 and 40 item level increases and their DPS has gone down. Their survivability has gone down. Their healing has gone down. They're getting accepted for harder and harder content, but then hitting into walls. Why? Because reaching the item level in order to access this level of content has had the effect of seriously affecting one's own performance. You're actually playing a worse character than you were before. So let's illustrate a couple of examples of just how egregious this system is right now. And many fire mages such as myself will know the problem that is trinkets right now and how wacky they are. I can show you the 830 blue, fuck Suesh, 830 blue world trinkets just from a world quest that I have. And then I can show you one of the 5 trinkets that I have in my collection. And one of them is an 870 Mythic 8 Warforged trinket. Intellect, does stuff with critical strikes. That should be fucking awesome, right? And then I say to you, which one's better? Which one's better? And common sense, common fucking sense should say to you that of course, Preacher, the 871 is better than the blue nothing's happened to it world quest trinket, bro. That's 40 item levels less. In a lot of scenarios, guys, it's not. It actually isn't, because of how it works. How that trinket, that 870 trinket actually functions can lead to a DPS loss in a lot of scenarios because it has to build up. It doesn't proc all the time. Therefore, if it's on dungeons, it barely procs at all. You'll never see it do a goddamn thing other than try and proc, and it won't proc because stuff dies too quickly, even on Mythic 9 and 10. It just isn't going to happen, right? And therefore, taking my shitty blue trinket with some nice passive crit is actually giving me substantially more damage, like 3% more damage, despite the fact the other one has passive intellect. The other one has passive crit, which is great for me. But is your average man going to sacrifice a slot for 40 item levels? No, they're not going to do that. But what they are going to do is do less damage as a result. And this whole system is so criminally invasive. When Worlds of Draenor launched, with the removal of reforging and the sales pitch Blizzard gave to us, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to remember this, is that it is not fun if an item drops and you're not sure if it's an upgrade. You're not sure. You shouldn't need to go to a website or an online resource to figure out if an item is an upgrade for you. You should obviously be looking at it and go, well, this is a higher item level. Of course it's better. Of course it's better. There'll be some variation. We even saw in WoD some blues were better than the early epics, but generally speaking, it was alright. It was alright. But now it's a fucking calamity. And how far have we gone away from that system? The idea that an item should drop and you should be able to equip it. Well, yeah, I can do that, but I'll also sacrifice DPS in doing so, unless I'm very, very familiar with how my class works. I mean, very familiar, more so than the average player is going to be. More so than the average player is going to be. And maybe some of you are in this position. In fact, I know that many of you are in this position because you get in contact with me and you say, I don't know what the fuck's going on, Preacher. Can you help me out? And I can't armory every single one of you. I just can't do that. Oh, it makes me sad. It makes me sad to look around at all these guys who are literally screwing themselves over. The horror stories that pile in of people banking their artifacts so they can wear the wrong artifact in a different spec because it has a higher item level. And yes, this stuff has been around since Wrath of the Lich King. People wearing healer trinkets to tank because it was higher item level. It's always been around, but now we are showered in shit. We are showered in gear. Your world quests are providing upgrades that can also be Warforged, Titanforged, give you great stuff. Heroics are giving really high level stuff as well. Your mythics are giving constant streams of gear. And if you guys are anything like me, I've done what, 4 mythic plus runs today between 9 and 8 and 6. And there's no way I'm getting an upgrade in there as far as I'm concerned. It's all just shit that nobody wants because it's garbage. Is it an item level upgrade? Probably. Does anybody want it? No. And we all offer it to trade at the end. Does anybody want any of this? No, no, no. It's not because we're raiders. It's not because we have high level gear already. It's just because the stuff that's dropping is just shit. Generally speaking, unless you're very, 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 very lucky, it's generally crap. It's generally a lot of crap all the time. It's some great Chaos Crystal farming and some moderate AP, but there you go. That's what's going on. So, anyway, enough of the whine. I hope I've made my point clear that, obviously, as something we've preached forever, is that item level is not everything, although some of you do live in that world, is hopefully you can have a cheesy item level, but then hopefully switch back to appropriate gear. But many of you are probably asking the question, yeah, that's all very well and good, Preacher, but how the fuck do I solve this problem? How do I answer all these questions when it comes to all the relics? How do I know which gear is good for me? So what I did is I went out and about and used the resources that are freely available to you guys, because although maybe over the next few months I could do an individual video on each class and spec that would go massively in depth on all the rules and regulations that come with something like relic upgrades and come with individual items and breakpoints and stuff like that. Maybe I could do that, but it'd be a huge, huge effort for very, very minimal gain. What I can do is point you to resources that I found that were actually pretty good. But of course, with always, this comes with caveats. So the first thing I would really recommend if you want to actually solve this problem and you're running into this issue where you're just constantly looking to upgrade item level, but you're seeing negative results because of that, is to start looking at the websites that are literally dedicated to your class. There are several of them out there now that are straight up dedicated to your class or role. So tanking has one. Like mages have altered time. You need a lot of heads involved in the current Legion system because the Legion loot system, this Diablo 3 style system, is fucking chaos. It's all over the goddamn place. So you're going to need many, many heads working together in order to kind of figure out exactly where you are and what you need to be doing or what is best for you and how you actually utilize that stuff in the best way. And you can easily figure that stuff out from there. I started to have a look at the websites that kind of auto-configure your gear. Now, this would include both Mr. Robot. I'm sure many of you go to ask Mr. Robot, and of course, Simcraft. Simcraft is on my PC, always has been since fucking the Burning Crusade, I believe. And these tools are very, very useful. However, I'm almost positive that nearly everybody listening to this right now doesn't use them correctly. And that's not your fault. That's not your fault. They designed these systems to be super easy to use, and then they give you a big shiny button that says, Simulate. Well, what's the question we should always ask yourselves? What the fuck am I simulating? What am I simulating here? For the most part, it's going to simulate you attacking a stationary target where you're stood completely still and with all the buffs in the world and just being able to flat out DPS. How many bosses are like that? Ursoc, normal and heroic. Nathendra, normal and heroic. Not even Nathendra, you got to move around for Nathendra. I think Ursoc, normal and heroic, and Nathendra, not even normal. Really, that has some movement involved in it, even, you know, even minimal, but you still have movement. And then, of course, you have mind controls when you get up to Mythic, and Ursoc has some cleave, a little bit of cleave when you get up to Mythic, and all this kind of stuff starts playing into it, and you've got to account for that in some ways. The idea of simulating what is your straight-up single-target damage is not useful. So it gave me some weird results when I tried to do that. It was like, you should equip this, and you should definitely use the other trinket because, you know, it works quite well if it's just attacking one target and all this kind of stuff. But in practicality terms, that would definitely have been a DPS loss for me. So what you always have to ask the question is, what am I simulating? What is the data I'm pulling out of this? I can't just hit simulate and just say, okay, that's the answer. You have to figure out what it is that you're going to be doing. What kind of content are you doing? Are you doing a lot of dungeons? Then you really need to be looking into AoE. You really need to be doing that. And this then goes for Simcraft as well. I did get Simcraft to kick out the exact set of gear that I have now by tweaking it around a little bit to more realistic scenarios like 3-target cleave, 4-target cleave, stuff like that. It's not the easiest thing to do, so I might do an individual video on it, but the options are there. If you just click around for a little bit, you will find them, and they will be there for you to see. I think what we are concluding here is the resources are available. I was quietly surprised that Ask Mr. Robot and Simcraft were easy enough to sort out to give me the correct answer. Right, they seem reasonably up to date for now, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You can go in there, you can sort it out. You don't need to pay, and you'll generally figure out what's best for you. And you can switch gear, relog, and you don't have to pay anything to figure out what's going to be the best and sort your characters out that way. And you will, even if you get it slightly wrong, and I think this is something you should go away with. Even if you get it slightly wrong, it's not going to be enough that your DPS is going to be absolute dog shit. Right? So if you're not in a position like some of us are where we can kind of assess things visually on whether or not something's a bonus for us, we kind of know the rules and regulations. If you're not quite there yet, that's totally fine. These resources are decently doing okay right now, and you can actually get them to kick out the right answer if you spend a little bit more time tweaking with it. It's a lot more work. Should you need to do that? No. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't be needing to do this. In fact, Blizzard was dead against this just one expansion ago. But this is the scenario we are in, ladies and gentlemen. This is the world we live in. Is there anything I would suggest to Blizzard, and will I be bringing up at BlizzCon? Yeah. Do we really need the Titanforged, Heroic, and Warforged stuff all the time? Can we go back to a simpler time where it's not all switching around and convoluted? Can we maybe just think about going backwards a little bit here? The whole idea of the Warforged, Titanforged system was, of course, for raiders who were stuck in normal and heroic to always have the potential to get upgrades so they can eventually outgear the content if their skill level isn't good enough. That's what it was for. That's why it came into the game. And then in WoD, it spread down to the heroics and stuff. And it wasn't a big deal because dungeons were generally a waste of time in Warlords of Draenor, right? After the first few weeks, the dungeons didn't matter and you moved on to different things. You either got absurdly high item levels to where it didn't matter in Tanaan Jungle, or you were doing mythics there, which gave absurdly high item level stuff, or you were raiding. Those were your only real choices of gearing up, so this wasn't a big deal. Legion intends to go forward and strive forward and continue going forward with the huge array of dungeons, all dropping multitudes of different loot constantly. And the 7.1 upgrade system where they will put a big green arrow over stuff in your bags that is a higher item level is going to add to its toxicity because people are going to look in their bags, see this green arrow, and I don't believe. Some people said it's not a big deal. I believe it is. I believe it is because this is an in-game notification, an icon, a special icon that is telling you you should be doing something with this. Similar to how weapons proc and items proc, right? They have an in-game graphic that goes along with that, which is the game telling you should be doing something with this. Is there a mass epidemic of people who just sit around with massive upgrades all over their bags and don't know it? It happens to us every now and again, especially when we're leveling and we're collecting a lot of quest items. And yes, sometimes this stuff just sat in our bags. That happens. But generally when you're only getting one item per hour, you know, and you win the drop, you generally know what's going on there. So I don't think this is a big issue, and I think this is encouraging a behavior that's already toxic. And the pessimist in me does think, and I'm sure some of you think it as well, has Blizzard essentially turned its back on the casual player base and said there's no hope here to get these guys out of this item level funk, so we should make it easier for them to gain access to content, just based on item level. And I say to Blizzard, if that is the case, and again, I'm being pessimistic here, I don't think this really is the case, but if that is the case, reduce the loot tables. Make some stuff class specific. Make it so it's tailored to certain classes. If that's what you're going to do, Mythic Plus, especially above 5, is more endgame content than most people are used to. That's more difficult than most people are used to. Then tailor some gear to them. Make it a bit more personal, because you're already denying trades on people with higher item levels, right? Don't want to give up that item level. Jesus fucking Christ, can you imagine if someone had to trade a higher item level item by choice? What madness would that be? If you're already doing that stuff, let's tailor it so that this gear isn't fucking garbage. You know what the best stats are. You're not fucking stupid. You're not fucking stupid, Blizz. You design these classes. You know what's good. So help the guys out instead of making people, or not making people, but putting people in a position where they feel that they are forced to equip whatever has the higher number, despite the fact that they're fucking screwing themselves by doing so, and then going on to encourage it. So yeah, not too impressed with the Legion loot system, as you can imagine. But it does, I gotta say, at the end of this video, if you made it this far, is I am biased, because I hate the loot system in most games. I just want to play. I just want to play and I want to farm. And I don't want to farm, I should say. I just want to play, I want to kill new bosses. That's what I like to play for. Farming endless mythic dungeons for the hope of that one perfect drop and being excited about it isn't my bag. So bear in mind that that is the position I come from. But I look around as somebody who's spent the last few years trying to help people get into an end game scenario where they're doing well and enjoying themselves and been successful at it. And I look around at what people are doing in game right now, and they're just choking each other to death in this toxic cloud of failure, where they're boosting their item levels by any possible way necessary, and in doing so lowering their performance and then hitting walls earlier than they probably should do and being left confused. Why is my DPS lower if my character should be substantially stronger? Ladies and gentlemen, your thoughts, leave them with me. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.